Hello, and we are back with Wine with Raquel, and I have Rodney Bailey of Wedding Photojournalism with Rodney Bailey. Am I saying that correctly?
Yes, Wedding Photojournalism by Rodney Bailey.
Yes, yes. And Rodney is drinking tea. I'm still drinking wine. It's a tough job,
tea.
But somebody has
We're
to
still
do
going
it,
to
right?
cheers, though, right?
That's right. Cheers, cheers, cheers. So, I have heard so much about you all over the DMV area, and you are just fabulous. You have such a great reputation. You've been doing this for how long now?
28 years, and thank you for saying so.
28 years.
Yeah.
And so, just being a photographer in general in the DMV area, how do you see things changing from kind of maybe even 10 or 15 years ago to where we are now?
Well, definitely 15 years ago, it was more traditional in terms of film days. And then, about that time is when I started to adopt digital. So I was shooting a hybrid of film and digital about 15 years ago. And then I really jumped ship because I saw the value in digital, the product that it produced even 15 years ago was amazing. But of course, they're advancing technology so fast in that field that even today it just so surpasses film in every which way. And it was almost there even 15 years ago.
So do you find it hard to kind of keep up with the technology and the trends?
I am a little bit of a gearhead, so I love the aspect of gear, but I try not to get too caught up in it because the changes aren't major year to year. They do take about 2 to 3 years to really make major changes, and that is more in the dynamic range or the aspect of what the sensor can capture and things of that sort.
So when everyone was switching over from film to digital, that was like a big deal. It was a big decision. So how did you make the decision that I was going to go for it?
I was an early adopter. I kind of am a gearhead, so I love the aspect of that. And I did sprinkle in with the film weddings that I was doing at that point. I remember the first one was at Meridian House, and it was a beautiful wedding, and I wanted to shoot a little bit of digital. I purchased the first Fuji. It was a Fuji S1.
That's so funny you remember that.
I do. Again, the gearhead. I remember the first camera. I still have it, the Minolta X370.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, so with that, I started sprinkling. I probably shot about 300 or 400 images in digital with the film. And I usually had shot about 40 rolls every wedding of 35 millimeter film. That's with an assistant as well, so a second shooter. Always, our team is always usually, I would say 99% of the time with that second shooter because we believe in that action and reaction with our photographs.
And actually, so that's a really great point. So I invited you here because you're a panelist at the summit, and our goal at the summit is to just kind of provide a general education to brides and grooms who are recently engaged. And second shooters, that's a topic that a lot of photographers talk about. Is there value in that? Do you need more than a second shooter? What type of level of expertise do they have? Do you need to see the images from the second shooters? What's kind of your perspective?
Yeah, my perspective is hopefully, the lead photographer has done some sort of training with the second photographer before they're coming out with them.
So they should have a relationship.
They should have a relationship. There are photographers that put on Facebook, I need a second photographer, and they don't have a relationship, and I guess that works for them. I'm a big believer in relationships and how a wedding works and how it flows, and to be unobtrusive and capture those moments, it really does kind of need a sync. And we really believe in that, and that's one of the reasons why I think we've been very successful at the two-shooter process.
And so just in general, why do you need a second shooter? Can't one photographer take care of it all?
Sure, one photographer can take care of it all. There's
I don't think so.
There's going to be moments missed, though. They can take care of it all, but can they take care of it to the full extent of what it needs to really capture a day?
That's a great definition of that.
And they definitely could do it. But I'm a big believer, even in small weddings, we do sometimes 25-person weddings, under 50. Sometimes we say if you're having under 50, it is sort of maybe too much to have two photographers. And I am in agreement on that. Some of our destination weddings, a lot of times, again, it's an extra airfare, it's an extra expense to get another photographer, and if they're only having 20, 25 guests, it can be handled. But most of our weddings are 100, 150, 250, even 900. So they can get large. And so with that, to really make everything as smooth in the transition with the timeline, working with the planner's timeline to really make sure everything goes smoothly, it really does require 2 photographers. And half of that is our style too. Really that action and the reaction. If you're staging everything or everything's styled, then of course you can do it as a 1 photographer and do it successfully.
But you know, wedding days, I mean, that's live action, so you certainly have to be able to kind of look at that other shooter and they can read your eyes, like, get that shot with mom and the daughter.
We sometimes have hand signals, not real sign language because we don't know it, but
like baseball signals,
exactly, yeah.
right?
And it works, you know. And honestly, if you're working with a second that really knows, and we're very fortunate. We sometimes have seconds stay with us as long as 3, 4, even 5 years.
That says a lot about you.
So
And also, so I know that your company has also other shooters, other team members. So tell me a little bit about just clients looking at a company that might have other shooters. They might think like, well, if I can't get Rodney, I don't want to work with these other people. Why do you have other team members, and how does that work with brides and grooms?
Yeah, for us, you know, it really, when I first started this business 28 years ago, I had no idea that I wanted a team, you know, and it just kind of grew out of necessity and also for the love of it, you know, for the love of continuing on with the company, you know, and for us, it really worked. For me, when I first got an assistant that really was spectacular, just had the eye, just had the attitude, I was like, wow, this is really great. And it wasn't probably until 2 or 3 years into it that I even dreamed of relying on someone else.
Yes.
Because that's the other thing.
It is hard as a business owner having your name and someone else represent it.
Yeah, it's basically me every time. It's mini me's, you know, running around.
Right, exactly.
So yeah.
Because if they're not happy, who's, you know, they come right to the owner.
Exactly. So that was kind of the process. I really had so much faith and trust in this person, and then I offered him if he stays with me for 5 years as a second.
5 years.
5 years.
You are not joking around.
We don't play with that. You know, it comes with the experience, and I believe any photographer, you know, that's sort of starting out, it requires almost 5 years to really sort of get your feet wet and really be 100% comfortable with what everything weddings are about. Yeah. And that's just my opinion.
So let me ask you about that, because there are, you know, we all started off, we were, you know, there was a time that we were brand new. How does a client decide that they're going to go with someone who's brand new, has no experience? Is that even an option for a wedding day? Or maybe they have minimal experience in weddings, but they have experience. What's kind of your thought process?
Yeah, my thought process with that is, you know, everyone has a budget to work with, and sometimes the budget isn't there to hire a professional or to hire someone with experience. And if that's, again, not their priority as far as photography being top on their list or, you know, one of the top 3, then I would say, you know, they can definitely hire whoever they like. I mean, I even heard we had a recent client that came back to us with a horrible story, but with the beginning of that story was they hired a college person, you know, and you know, this college person just didn't do what they thought was going to happen.
And I was going to say, so that's actually a really good point. So I definitely believe everybody has a budget. There should be like kind of a minimum standard, I think, for wedding photography. So what do you think that...
And wedding planners.
And wedding planners, too. That's a whole nother show. But, so what would you think that someone should be looking for when they're interviewing from someone who's been doing this for almost 30 years? What should a bride and groom be looking for, you know, from the onset?
Yeah, you know, there's a lot of things. You know, definitely confidence is one of them. I mean, making sure that your photographer is confident in what they're talking about. Everything as far as that goes should be a no-brainer. I mean, if you find someone uncomfortable with their profession when they're speaking about it, then of course that's a red flag.
Or what if they're like, well, you know, I do this on the side, and you know, what's your opinion on side gigs?
There's nothing wrong with side gigs. I mean, sometimes people have to start somewhere, and sometimes getting all their feet in the water at once is too much for people. So that, you know, to do that, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Again, if they have a passion for it, you see the quality there, and I think that's the other thing. And this is just, I guess, me coming from the digital age, the film days to the digital age. Film really, the one great thing about it was you had to print it out. Yeah. I will say, you know, there's so many great websites out there, and hopefully ours is one of those included in there, but it really does, I think, still go back to the old school print, even with the digital aspect. Seeing the printed out photographs, seeing that in person makes all the difference in the world. You know, you can do a lot with the screen these days. You can over sharpen, you can do a lot to hide things on the screen for the web aspect. seeing it live, seeing it, touching and feeling some of the paper that's available too, it really makes all the difference in the world. And I think you can really see the quality at that point. I think, again, sometimes the lines get a little blurred online just because there's so much you can do to
So people really need to think about what are they going to do with these photos afterwards, because I know some packages of photographers will provide just a thumb drive, and I have had clients that will get that package and have every intention of making their own album or printing it out, and they never get around to it. So you know, thinking about what is the end result, what do you want to do with these photos? Do you want an album? Do you want to blow up a picture and put on your wall?
Absolutely.
And that's a great point, that when people meet with you, I'm assuming that you're able to show them work that you've already printed out.
Yeah, and we do have albums, sample albums, and the great thing about albums today, they're not your parents' album in a lot of ways. You know, there's so much more and so much more creative what you can do to them.
Yeah.
I would say 85% of our clients do an album.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because they do want that final tangible product, but they don't want it in a low-end form that they could do at home or on Shutterfly or something like that. Not down Shutterfly, but you know, it's just the quality is not quite there. So we have found the best vendors to sort of facilitate that. We handle all the design process.
And that's a big part of it too, is that even if you do find a high-end vendor that can print, the design, I mean, how many hours does your team spend on making one album?
Yeah, we're probably in the 12-hour
I mean,
range.
and you're a professional.
Yeah.
You know, imagine it's like when you try to hack at it yourself, it takes a lot of time.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. The one thing that we do for all of our clients when they include an album in their package is we actually do a pre-design. This is important because I think a lot of photographers miss an opportunity here. One of the things that we love is that pre-design gives them a head start in the process. It's still a lot of work for our clients even after getting a pre-design. So think about it.
What does that pre-design mean? I've never heard that.
It means literally lay out the album.
Before the wedding day?
No. Right after the wedding day, after the images are captured, we of course color correct. We cull all the images, they're beautiful. We have a set of usually anywhere from 800 to 1,000 images on average. With that, I take those images, and this is with all of our associates. I still do it with all of our associates too. They sit down with me though and kind of talk me through the event because I wasn't there to experience it and who the important players are. But the one thing I do is pull the images, about 100 to 150, and I start designing what I think, page by page, will tell the story.
That's so valuable.
And it gives them that story.
You as an artist being able to put that spin on them, that's great.
Yeah, and it helps them so much because honestly, we have even clients that, you know, that say afterwards, we don't really want an album initially. And then afterwards, we really want an album. Well, that's great. At that point, they've already seen all the images. I don't want to give them a head start. They kind of already know and fall in love with what they want. So at that point, they take their images, give us the numbers, and sometimes they'll take them a year just to do that.
Oh, I know.
And just to give us numbers. Not talk about design, not talk about the aspect of putting together a full album, just picking out the pictures sometimes requires so much time.
It does.
It
really does.
And so that's why we do that process. And I started that about 15 years ago when we switched to digital. And one of the reasons why is because I could do it. Film was too impossible to scan and properly do, and the software wasn't there.
So you will pick the images that you think are the best and kind of put it together for them for their approval.
Yes.
That alone, like, you're hired. I mean, because just, you know, I know in my own personal life, there's just so much going on. To spend that hour or 2 or 3 or 4 hours with your fiance or that now husband in front of a computer picking those things out, that's a lot of time. So that's lovely that they have someone who's a professional that can do that. That's really
It's a head start. I won't say it's a home run. I will say it's a head start because it's still homework for the client, but hopefully it's not as much because they can visualize the story.
Now, is that something that you think most photographers do? Is that something that, so that's just a Rodney Bailey right there.
I don't know if it's only me, but you know, honestly, we started about 15 years ago, and I know I was one of the early adapters in that process. It's a lot of labor, it really is, but it's a labor of love, and I honestly feel like it's incomplete. It's almost like, you know, you getting a puzzle, you know, in some ways, and all those pieces are laid out, and you're like, I'd like to get to that, but I don't have the time. I don't have the time to focus on it. And that's exactly what it is. It's all those pieces are just spread out everywhere, and you don't know how to pull it together. Exactly. And that's one of the things that I think a photographer, especially one that has been doing albums and laying out albums for so long, can really guide and help give that blueprint.
So, you know, and there was one thing I want to jump back to that I think I kind of got us off on the wrong tangent about associates, because we talked about having a second shooter, albums being important. What about working with someone's associates? What's kind of your thought process on that?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if they're vetted and they're trained, I think, second or lead associates in a photography studio is a great option.
So should you be asking questions to that lead photographer about the quality? Tell me, if I'm a client and let's say I want to work with you, you're not available, or any company, and they say a second shooter is available. Are there questions that I should be asking to make sure that this person is up to the standards that I'm expecting?
Absolutely. Experience. I mean, that's one of the things. Definitely see how long they have been with the company shooting. I mean, that's a big factor, because no matter what, we have that 5 years before they can be a lead. And actually, we've been very fortunate.
Which is awesome.
16 years I have one of our long-time running leads.
That's
and
awesome.
then 11 years is our youngest.
Kudos to you. You got to give them a shout out there on Facebook. Tag them when you get this out.
Yes, I will. Yeah, my team is spectacular. And, that's part of it too, is having that synergy around. A lot of these photographers are lone wolves, and I was a lone wolf for almost 13 years before, really saying, let's do this and let's do this process. It really is nice to have that sort of team all in the same mindset.
And so let me ask you, I'm assuming that the value of a team too is that you have trained them the way that you want things done, so that they can know that they're working with one of your associates, but that you've spent the time to make sure that they're delivering up to your standards.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that I don't know a lot of photographers with teams really put the emphasis on that as much as they should, but I really have just kind of made sure that 5 years is that process. I mean, they've literally shot almost 200 weddings in that 5-year period before becoming a lead photographer.
Wow, that's awesome.
And I believe it's one of those things that is not even an option to be less than that.
Yes, and that's what I love about you, because your passion for your company and your craft definitely comes through. You can see that you've been doing this for almost 30 years, and there's a reason. And it's because you have high standards, which I think comes through in everything you talk about.
Well, it's really because I love it. I mean, I still love it today. I probably love it more today than when I first started.
Really?
Yeah.
How was that?
Well, I think it's because, honestly, you do fall into, at first you're sort of trying to build something, and you're trying to get your own niche, and you're trying to do that. And then after a while, and hopefully this is the case, but this has definitely been the case for us, is that after a while you really start getting those clients that are looking for you for that reason. Right. And it's not a sale. It's a relationship. And
it's almost like a matchmaking. You're kind of interviewing each other, and when it's a fit, it's a fit.
Absolutely.
So what else should a client be looking for when they're interviewing photographers?
I think personality is definitely a key. I mean, the confidence there has to be there. I mean, as a wedding planner, there's a lot to wrangle in a day.
Yes.
There's time on our side, never.
You have 2 minutes to get this ballroom before I let the guests in. Go.
Yeah. Or you have 5 minutes in the church. That's all you have because it ran late, and the next ceremony's happening. There's all those factors that go into play. So the one thing, and that's why I say that 5 years experience really is a minimum, is because of all those things. Because you get thrown so much in a wedding. You really have 10 things going on at once.
See, I don't think that clients understand that.
Of course they don't. I mean, and they shouldn't in a lot of ways. I mean, that's the same thing with your job. You put out 10 fires as a wedding planner that no one knows, and that's part of the. Hopefully, they don't see.
And you know what? You know how I think people know? It's by your reviews and your past clients saying, like, this was a fabulous experience. That's how you can tell someone's great, is they have a long legacy of making people happy.
That's true.
You don't have to be like, oh yes, this church coordinator was about to kick me out, and I was still able to get Grandpa up on the stage and fix his boutonniere and get the shot, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, the reviews are definitely part of it. And, where a company gets their business is part of it too. I mean, we're getting 80% of our business from referrals. Right. And so that means we are doing a good job every time. And that's huge. I mean, I would say, definitely look at referrals as when they come in from your friends, when they come in from, past couples, they really look at them with validity and say, you know, is this photographer for me? It might not be the right style.
Exactly.
It might, because there are different styles out there.
Agreed.
I used to say there was 3 categories of styles. I think right now there might be 20 categories.
So give me kind of with some general different things, different categories that you might find.
Yeah, I mean, definitely there's more traditional. I mean, that's definitely a mainstay, and I think that's true. It's definitely a little more staged, a little more posed throughout that. And now that's become a little more fine art, too.
Fine art,
yeah.
I love that.
That's the switch from traditional, I think.
Yes.
And then, you know, I think with any of these styles, just let me touch on that for one second. It's still a hybrid. I mean, you're still doing a hybrid.
Of course.
And so, you know, the next style would probably be more of the, you know, journalistic aspect. And that's us. I mean, we really document everything as it happens.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
We're hands off as much as possible. So what that means is everyone gets to enjoy themselves, be themselves inside their wedding. It's going to be a short, I mean, it's a short
But
time.
then how are you going to get the photo with grandma and the bride?
And we still do those, and that's why I say they're all hybrid. So we're 90% in that capture real moments, capture everything as it happens, letting you guys just emerge and be yourself.
Right.
The other 10% is that pose session.
Right.
We have to do it. It is a memorable occasion. You have all the family in. We get a list from all of our clients, and a lot of this comes from communication over the years of figuring out what clients need, what they don't need, things of that sort. But really getting that list from our clients, the have-to-have family shots. Schedule a time in either before the wedding from a first look aspect, going right into the family, or right after the ceremony, doing the right thing.
And you can advise them based on kind of, you know,
and we do.
Right.
You know, not only myself, but my wife Darcy. She really is great about the aspect.
Yes, she is the backbone.
She's more than the backbone.
Yeah. She is Rodney Bailey.
She pretty much is, yeah. She comes from a wedding planning aspect. She comes from running a site as well, Decatur House Museum. So she comes from all that. She knows weddings inside and out. Sometimes I think she knows them better than me.
You guys are such a great mix. Your clients are probably so lucky that they have that planning background and the photography background.
And she is so great with customer service. Not that I'm not, but she really just takes it to another level. So, yeah.
Well, so in conclusion here, we're just about to wrap up. Tell me what are maybe your top 3 things that you would like clients to know, or potential brides and grooms when they're interviewing photographers. Here's what they need to know.
Yeah, I would say, you know, look at the experience for number 1, you know, and look at work from that experience. Because again, I really believe that online can show a great deal of depth of work in a very easy space. But I really believe meeting clients as much as possible, face-to-face.
Face-to-face meetings. And
seeing the work printed out.
Okay.
Things of that sort. I mean, I believe in that. So that's probably 2 or 3 things right there.
Yeah.
But the other is, you know, value. I mean, you know, there always comes to what budget restraints come into place, where your money is going to be spent, what you're receiving tangible for that. And we believe, you know, in the aspect of make sure the photographer is the photographer you want, number 1. The rest doesn't matter. I mean, honestly, what you're getting in the back end. And of course, everyone gives files these days, so you will have those. Make sure the style is there, make sure the personality is there, make sure that photographer is the one you want. Because as much, I mean, you know, you can get album after album and parent albums and big blow-ups, but if you don't love the work from the beginning, this doesn't matter because you're not going to love all that. So and I think that sometimes clients get really caught up in the aspect of what's tangible, what they are getting, because they feel like they're paying a lot, might as well get a lot. And I think that
they have to love the photos first.
Yes. I think that's probably number 1 in a lot of ways, if I really were to categorize it. Because, you know, I think most photographers or most clients, when they come to us initially, they have this big long list. We need 2 parent albums, we need a parent album, we need a 16 by 20 canvas, we need all these items. And really when it comes down to it, if they don't love the photography from the beginning, they're not going to need all this because they're not going to want it.
Exactly. So love the photography, experience matters. What else? What would be the one last thing you'd want to tell bride and grooms?
You know, I would say make sure you're looking at real work too, and that's a big factor.
Yes.
Meeting the person in the space, I think, is great, and we have all meetings with our lead photographers with our clients as well. But really kind of taking it home and saying, this is, and having just a period feeling of saying this is the right fit. I mean, usually your gut will tell you when you sit down with a client.
Right.
And we do it on the reverse side as well. Sometimes we have clients that literally don't have that fit for us. They're really looking for everything to be stylized, everything to be completely posed, everything magazine quality. And it's not that our work doesn't get in the magazines, but they're looking for that sort of magazine look, you know, and everything's staged. That's usually not our client, and we will let them know that that's kind of, you know, you're probably looking in a different direction in a nice way. We're not out to, you know, make enemies out of this process. We want to make everyone as much as possible, just easy, having fun, enjoying it, and being not disappointed. You know, we want the expectations to meet what we're able to provide, and so I think that's part of it too.
Well, Rodney, I mean, just everything you said, I totally agree with, and it just shows that you really are passionate about your clients, certainly an expert at your craft. So I'm so glad that you're able to come and have tea with me today. And cheers, and I look forward to hearing more at the summit.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.